welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena. I'm Griffin Senek, joined alongside my co-host Devin Bernstein. We're back once again with another episode. Some record-breaking news this week. Another week of NFL under the belt. Some punches thrown on the basketball court. A lot to catch up on, but we're going to start with I think the news that took the sports world by storm as soon as it broke, and then kind of throughout the week, and that's Shohei Ohtani signed a 10-year, $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The deal itself, a little funky. He's only going to be making $2 million for the first 10 years, or the 10 years of his actual contract. And then after that, due to all the deferred money, we'll be making about $68 million per year for the next 10 years. Present value of the contract, I think, is something around $437 million, roughly around there, something like that. So a very weird contract, but Ohtani wants to win. Did this to help the Dodgers still lure some big free agents. They've been rumored with basically everyone that's still out there, as well as a trade for Tyler Glasnow this past week. So they're very active. But obviously, Shohei Ohtani, the best player in the sport. And the Dodgers, I mean, you already got Mookie Betts, you already got Freddie Freeman, now you add Shohei Ohtani. Your thoughts on the deal itself, but also just how stacked this Dodgers lineup is now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd become desensitized to like big sports contracts, but nope. Yeah, no, wow. 700 million. I don't think that was really reported anywhere. Like, I mean, I thought 500 million would be crazy, but then the more I think of it, the more I'm like, yeah, if he gets back to being a great pitcher, like not gets back on the field, like just more so actually pitching. Like I'm
Yeah.
confident it'll be great if he does pitch. Like there's nothing stopping this from being a very fair contract, like which is so crazy to say, but he's just that freaking good. And yeah, I mean, before we talk about who else they could add, like this lineup's already so unreal. This top three, like I I don't even know. Like I don't know. It's crazy. Um, we kind of talked about like Judge and Soto as being a great duo, and like they have three hitters on that caliber. Like
Yeah.
these are probably three of the 10 best hitters,
Yeah.
six best hitters. Like I don't know, like somewhere in that vicinity in the world. Like I don't I don't know. I would like we were hanging out and we were talking about it. We're like, how many games like could they win in a few years? Like once Ohtani gets pitching, if they make some additions around the edges, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary for sure. I mean, I think it's so it's like, oh my God, 700 million, like that's crazy. Like that's not worth it. But then like you hear all this deferral stuff come out and like, 68 million, 20 million years from now is not, or 20 million, 20 million years ago, 20 years from now, $68 million is not $68 million today. I mean, that's just, we've seen these NFL contracts in the last 20 years. I mean, 20 years is a crazy long time. And that's when Shohei's last payment is going to be like the Dodgers, with all the money Shohei brings in, with the value he brings on the field, like this is probably a discount at the end of the day. And I mean, the fact that he's making $2 million a year for the first 10 years is crazy. It almost like shouldn't be allowed, low key, but I mean, not many players are willing and can afford to do that, obviously. But yeah, sticking to baseball, I mean, it felt like this was kind of where he was going to go the whole time. And it seems like with all the reports coming out, the Blue Jays basically were kind of leveraged. The Giants apparently had basically the same exact offer in. I think it just kind of shows he always was wanting to stay in LA specifically and switch though to the Dodgers. Yeah, that top three is ridiculous. I think what's even scarier is just this team, you know, freed up all this cap space, freed up all this money to get Shohei. And it's like basically like, yeah, 43 million or so will go towards the luxury tax, but like they've still got a ton of money to spend. You hear them right at the forefront for Yamamoto, which is, I mean, if they get him, that's a 25-year-old ace he thrown in the mix. Glasnow, would be a rental, but maybe they work something out. He was really good last year. Um, Hader, I think, has been linked to them as well. Like, there's all these good names out there where it's just like, you know, if they land these guys, like, what are they going to do? Obviously, baseball is one of the sports where, you know, it is like anyone can truly win. We saw that this year with the Diamondbacks in the NL, and I guess not really with the Rangers. The Rangers are pretty stacked, but like we've seen teams go on runs that probably aren't the best team on paper or the best team just in the regular season. But that's the beauty of baseball. So does this guarantee them a World Series every year? Like maybe like I mean, if you look at the NBA, like when KD went to the Warriors, like that was like, okay, this team's going to the finals every year and like nothing's going to be able to stop them. Whereas like this is like, okay, this team is loaded, but like there's still that uncertainty with baseball. But absolutely, can I see the Dodgers becoming a dynasty? 100%. You know, they have a loaded lineup. The back end of the lineup is a little like I don't want to say weak, but there's like you've got like an old Jason Hayward in there and like a Chris Taylor and James Outman's a young player. Like there are some holes or weaknesses there. We'll see if they patch those up. And the pitching, little uncertain. You got Walker Buehler coming off another Tommy John surgery. Gonsolin was hurt for a lot of the year. Dustin May was hurt. So that's where, Shohei's not going to pitch next year, but that's where Yamamoto would come in big or Glasnow, like one of these names. So, they got Bobby Miller there, obviously. I think Kershaw's still a free agent. Who knows what's going to happen with that? I don't think he can pitch till like August or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's hurt or just had a surgery or something. So who knows what'll happen with that? I know I'm rambling a little bit, but obviously huge moves for the Dodgers, kind of expected, but I think the contract itself really allows this team to potentially become one of the better teams we've seen in the last, 10, 20, 30, last 50 years almost. I mean, they got the best player on the planet, and then you got Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and then you got money to spend. I mean, it's pretty scary. So hats off to them. And as much as I want to hate Shohei Ohtani and it frustrates me, the guy's just a team first player and wants to win, and you got to respect that at the end of the day. So I can't really bash him, even though it is. I'm sure both of us and both of our teams will potentially feel the ramifications of this for the next decade. So is what it
Yeah.
is, but that's the game.
Yeah. Next thing we're gonna talk about, or you're ready to move on, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Next thing we're gonna talk about, we kind of mentioned it in the intro. Draymond Green, what are you doing, big man? It was recently, I think yesterday, like around the start of the NBA games, it was announced that he's going to be suspended indefinitely. And there is some type of criteria he needs to meet to get back. And it's crazy, but like, I don't really disagree, man. I don't disagree with the suspension. Like, it's crazy that that's the case, but listen, you just can't have like forget about the brand and whatever. Like, he's just a reckless player. He choked out Rudy Gobert. He stomped on Domantas Sabonis, and he punched Yusuf Nurkic and his own teammate. You know, we can go on about how he's a fake tough guy and he doesn't do it to the real tough guy. I don't care. I don't care about that. I don't care about who the real tough guys are in the NBA. It's a sport. I don't care about, you know, whether he's going after an Isaiah Stewart or a Marcus Morris or whatever. It is interesting that it always happens to be European players. I think that's like, maybe something is there, but I don't want to get too conspiratorial here. Um, but the one thing I will say is Joe Dumars has been a mentor to Draymond Green, and he is the one basically in charge of giving out suspensions. And he basically said, like, yeah, man, like I don't know what's going on. Like, same thing with KD, and it's like
Yeah.
I think everyone just was like, all right, like the Sabonis thing, like, yeah, like you were kind of provoked, like it might have been an accident. Like, okay, fine. The Gobert thing, it was like, all right, that's funny. And now it's like, all right, man, you gotta relax.
Yeah.
And I just I don't I don't know what to say. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, are you doing it so the podcast gets more clicks? Like, is that what's gonna have to happen? Am I gonna have to start punching Griffin for people to start watching this? Like,
Hey, I'd eat some punches for some
yeah.
more views, some more subscribers. Bring it on.
uh, I genuinely I hope I hope he gets back soon and honestly never like he could have hurt Nurkic like really badly. Um
Yeah.
Same thing with Gobert. Like you don't like you don't choke someone out like as a joke or whatever. Like there's a reason why. Like you don't do that, especially when Gobert really wasn't involved. He just kind of did it. And people will say, well, the past shouldn't count. It's like, of course the past should count. Like he's done this a lot before. It's clear he's a dirty player. This isn't a one-off thing. Like the benefit of the doubt is not there for Draymond, and it shouldn't be. Um, so Draymond's one of my favorite NBA players, like in terms of his play style. Um, I just love how good of a passer he is and was in his prime. Such a good defender for someone who's not really like a jumper, not an elite athlete. I just really respected his game and just sad. I think this is probably what he's going to be remembered for. As much as being a four-time champion, which is crazy to think about, but he's probably going to be remembered as like the dirty player of this era. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the whole situation is pretty crazy. I mean, you got, you know, like guys like KD being like, I hope he gets the help he needs, which is just like some kind of crazy quotes. And then I agree with the suspension. I actually think watching this clip, he did try to explain it. I don't think it was as intentional as maybe some of his other incidents. Like I
Yeah.
do think that this one was like, okay, I can kind of feel like he wasn't necessarily trying to like punch him. He was more just like flailing and like obviously at him, but like it wasn't like to me, I didn't see him at least like it wasn't like clenched fists, like clearly trying to like it was kind of just like a wax his arm around. Obviously, like this guy's a dirty player. We've seen it. I watched it. There was a 2 minute like highlight reel of it was like kicking people in the nuts, stomping on their chest, like choking them out on my TikTok so today. So like this guy, it's just like 100% you need to account for past infractions because it's like let's look at steroids for instance. Like first time a guy gets popped for steroids in baseball, whatever, they get the traditional like 80 games or whatever it is. But like if you keep taking steroids, like there needs to be a bigger penalty. Like for instance, there was this guy in the Mets, Henry Mejia, back in like 2015 ish, who literally got popped like 3 times in a row and got like a lifetime ban because of it. Because it's like okay, like you do it the first time, you fucked up. Like, well, here's your punishment. You do it again, it's like, okay, buddy, like, what are we doing? And it's like, it's clearly you're not trying to stop or you're not trying to learn from any of this. It just keeps on happening. So I think the NBA is doing the right thing. I honestly like he should be suspended for a long time. Like this should be like a at least 10, maybe 20 game suspension, in my opinion. Like this is it's just getting out of control. And it's like at some point you just gotta like make a point, and then like after this, if this keeps happening, like these crazy huge infractions, then it's like I don't even know what you do. Cause it's like at some point then it's like, okay, like suspend him for the season or just like permanently. Like I don't even know what the next step is after this if he comes back and still is, beating up people. So I don't know. We'll see. I think the NBA is doing the right thing. I mean, what a time for the NBA. You got John Moran in court, like talking about, if his diamonds are real, trying to show how he punches someone. I mean, and then you got Draymond actually punching people on the court. I mean, it's just a absolute disaster. But it's kind of it's entertaining, honestly. It's been very entertaining, but those two always seem to be at the forefront of the headlines when it comes to kind of this kind of stuff, which is never what you want. But that's Draymond. I think the NBA is handling it right. So obviously, it'll be interesting to see kind of how long this lasts, and obviously when he returns, if there's really any change or what's going to happen. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I quickly on the jaw thing, like that was really weird as well. Like the NBA is just kind of like a crazy reality show, kind of. It feels
Yeah.
like it's very over the top, very dramatic. Yeah, I don't know with jaw like he had to like what was happening again? Like it was
I just saw bits and pieces on my TikTok, but it was just like there was one where some lady was like, "Are these diamonds real?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm a millionaire.
an
Like, what you
NBA
think?"
player.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, talk to him, Joe. And then there was another clip of like some lawyer, like Ja was like, she was like, okay, punch me. And Ja was like, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Like it was wacky for sure.
Yeah, no, that was the clip I saw that I couldn't remember. All right, we're gonna move on to the NFL here. Before we get too off the rails.
Yeah.
Um, oops. Okay, sorry. I was looking at week 14, my bad. Tonight. Okay, wow. Is it announced who's starting for the Raiders?
I think it's gonna be Aiden O'Connell. Would it be Jimmy G if it's not Aiden O'Connell? Is that who it'd be? Or
Him
do they
or
have
Brian
some
Hoyer,
young,
man?
young, young? Oh, they got Brian Hoyer. Oh my god, I can't believe they signed Jimmy G and he's just like on the bench. Like that's great. Didn't they give him like 20 M's a year too?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that game's a mess. So it's Mitch Trubisky versus we'll say O'Connell. I mean, I don't think it really matters. I'll probably
No,
pick
it's
the
it's Easton
Steelers.
Stick.
Oh fuck, it's the Chargers. I thought it was the Steelers. Oh, okay, this is a weird one. Ooh. Who are you picking, Dub?
Yeah, we got a little sidetracked there. Sorry. Hmm, I'm gonna go with the Raiders. They're at home. That's about all I got. I don't really have like the most to say about this game.
Yeah,
Quentin Johnson caught a deep ball, so that's like I guess a somewhat promising sign. Keenan Allen's out. So that
yeah,
makes me think about Raiders a little bit more. Like this just feels like a low scoring, boring game. We know Al Michaels isn't gonna be happy to be on the call.
yeah.
Um, I said this last week with the Thursday night game, but I'm probably gonna be watching basketball to be honest. Maybe I'll flip to it. Do I have any fantasy guys? No, I don't think so. So yeah, I don't think I'll really be, super invested in this one. Um, I mean the Chargers, it's just like I I know Herbert, obviously another brutal quarterback injury, which just sucks. Like
Yeah.
so many of them this year, just like really like the worst. You never want to see that. But um, like, how is this team 5-8? They're way too talented, and it's like their receivers were hyped up to be so good, and I know they had
Yeah.
again injury problems there, and that is a very recurring theme for the Chargers year in year out. But it's like where like you draft a guy in the first round, he can't play at all, really. Like the defense is horrible. You have a defensive head coach. You have the guy leading the league in sacks. You have Joey Bosa. You have Derwin James, and the defense is really bad until the last few weeks. It's just like it's embarrassing, and like I don't get why they haven't fired Brandon Staley yet. I certainly don't know what I'll say if they don't fire him this offseason.
He's gone.
Um,
He's got to be
he's
gone.
got to
Like
be.
there's,
He's got to
yeah,
be
like
gone.
he's gone. He's
Um,
gone for
yeah, I guess we'll cross that bridge if we get there, which hopefully we don't, just as a
sure.
fan who hopes for the best for the NFL and the product.
Yeah.
Um, the Raiders, it's like whatever. They couldn't score last week. That's obviously frustrating, but they're just like not that good. They're a rebuilding team. I like obviously Crosby. They probably should trade Devontae Adams and then won't until he's not good anymore. But that, he's still a very, very elite receiver. Like, I don't understand why a team wouldn't give up a second round pick for him and why that wouldn't be good for the Raiders. Like, that just seems to make sense to me. So hopefully he gets out of there. But yeah, I'm going with the Raiders in this one. What about you?
We go with the Chargers. Josh Jacobs also not going to be playing in this one. I think that's pretty big for, this Raiders offense when it is good, usually runs through him. So I think, not having him is going to be big. I think, it'll probably be a big Austin Eckler week, I would imagine. Kind of a bounce back for him last week. He's been really struggling, but I think yards per carry were around like 5 or something like that. He only had like 10 carries, which I think they need to get that number up a little bit. But I'd expect a big Austin Eckler week. Like you said, Easton Stick when he was in there, hit Quinton Johnson for a deep ball. So it looked all right. It's going to be an ugly game, probably a sloppy one. Thinking back to, I guess it was 2, 3 years ago, that week 18 game, or maybe it was 17 at the time, Chargers Raiders game, Sunday Night Football for the playoffs. That was one of the better games I think I've ever watched. And now we're stuck with Easton Stick versus Aiden O'Connell on Thursday Night Football. So that's that. I'll pick the Chargers. No reason to spend more time on this one than we need to. So we'll move over to the next fun quarterback matchup: Nick Mullins versus Jake Browning. Vikings have moved Josh Dobbs down to QB3, so the Pastronaut has I think we were saying the Pastronaut has landed, or I guess has crashed and burned in this case. Jake Browning and the Bengals, man, they've been playing really good. It seems like Jefferson will play for the Vikings, but I will be picking the Bengals here. Their offense has been rolling. They found some magic in this kid. I mean, this looks like a team that might be making a run to the playoffs. Both these teams are 7-6, obviously in different conferences. Much easier path, I would say, for the Vikings than the Bengals. But I'm gonna go with the Bengals here. I think their offense has been moving. Jamar's looked good. Mixon's kind of had a resurgence. Chase Brown had a big catch last week. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals here.
Yeah, I am as well. Kind of feels like they need it more, like you said, with the difference in the conference strength, and just feels like they're playing better. They're a better team right now. Jake Browning looks like top 40 quarterback for what it's worth. One of those
Yeah.
good backups to potential fringe starters. We'll see how long that lasts. And this Vikings defense has been playing really well, so wouldn't be shocked if it's a really low scoring game again. I guess Nick Mullins might be better than Dobbs at this point, but I don't know how good he is. I think there is something to be said for the first few weeks of a backup quarterback for whatever reason seem to go pretty well usually, and then
Hmm.
it seems to fall off the rails after like 3 or 4 weeks. So we are still kind of in that phase for Browning. So I guess I don't want to speak too soon and call him a great backup because, people are really going to get mad about that take, I'm sure. But um yeah, I just think the Bengals are slightly better, all around, slightly better at quarterback, probably not as well coached, but I just give them the talent edge here. So I'm going to go with the Bengals at home.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, no, moving on to another interesting quarterback matchup, a theme of every single NFL game, basically.
Yep.
We got Steelers Colts. This is in Indianapolis. It is Mitch Trubisky, so yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So I'm gonna go with the Colts. The Steelers don't look very good. They, this is classic Steelers. They lose to, some bad teams, and then they're probably gonna win this week. But I just can't pick them right now. Like Trubisky's not good, and this offense isn't good enough to carry him at all. Like even make him look competent. And defense, like they're opportunistic. They usually are smart. They play like they want to play defense. They don't just, kind of gift you free yards and soft coverage like a lot of teams do. But they're not some immovable object on defense. Like teams are able to move the ball. We saw Bailey Zappi like
Yeah.
go off against them. Like that's embarrassing if you're a defensive team. Like that can't happen. So, I just have no reason to pick the Steelers right now. And the Colts are playing pretty solid football. They didn't play great last week against the Bengals. But I just think they're playing better football at this time and they're at home. So I give them the edge.
I'm gonna go with the Steelers. The Colts got blown out last week. I think they're starting to kind of hit the, kind of come back to the mean a little bit. I just don't think they're as good as their record shows. Gardner's solid at this point for like a backup, but Zach Moss has kind of started to struggle a little bit. Obviously, the receivers have been really good. Pittman, Downs, and Alec Pierce have been great, but no JT once again. I think that's big. The Steelers, it's just one of those weeks that it feels like they get the job done. Highsmith and TJ Watt both going to be playing. They both got cleared, so that's big as well. Yeah, I just think this is a low scoring game. I think the Steelers kind of just kind of tough it out and Najee and Jalen Warren lead this team to victory. So I'm gonna go with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one. All right, moving along. Broncos at Lions. Lions in a bit of a funk. I believe they've lost two in a row now. Nope, that's incorrect. They've lost two of three. Lost last week to the Bears. The Bears have played the Lions really well. They've kind of had a resurgence. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Broncos obviously now 7-6. I mean, crazy turnaround for them. I think they've only lost one of their last seven games, which is pretty remarkable. Um, it is in Detroit. I don't know. It's a close one. What do you think, Dev?
I was hoping you would make the pick first so I could think about it a little bit.
I can
Um,
pick. I got my pick in mind if you want to go.
no,
I can
no,
go.
I was just kidding.
Okay.
I am gonna go with the Broncos. I think,
Okay.
they're just playing better football right now. Their weakest side of the ball is probably their offense, which I just think is better than Detroit's defense right now, which is really the issue.
Okay.
Earlier in the year, I remember saying like, "Oh, you've got this star in Aiden Hutchinson, you've got a bunch of other solid starters," but now it's like you've got a really good edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, but you don't really have anyone else that you're really confident in, and that's really hurting them. And Jared Goff has been turning the ball over a little bit more. So
Yeah.
I'm just like not very confident in this Lions team right now. The Broncos are playing well. They're not explosive or this great offense, but Cortland Sutton's playing really good football. Russell Wilson, kind of looks back like in his early Seattle days, I guess. Like that's,
Yeah.
without the legs really, but
Yeah.
you know, just making enough plays with a good surrounding cast around him. Um, so that's why I'm going with the Broncos, which sounds, imagine if I told myself that like 5 weeks ago.
Crazy times, yeah. I was thinking about the Broncos. Since you go the Broncos, I'll go with the Lions. I think they're better than have they played in this last 3 game stretch. I think Goff's kind of been in a little bit of a funk, and this isn't an easy matchup. I think the key for them is just get Amon-Ra St. Brown the ball. He has not been getting the ball enough these last 2 weeks. I think he's been held to like two or three I think 3 catches last week, two the week before. So, prior to that, it felt like this guy was getting 7, 8, 9 catches a game, and he's the best player on offense at the end of the day. And Sam LaPorta has been great, and just run the football. If they establish the run early on, I think they'll win this game. With Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, we've seen it. They've been the best running back duo all season, in my opinion. So just stick with that. Honestly, like if you get those guys running the football, you're going to be in a good spot. So establish the run. Denver's offense, like you said, it's been better than maybe last year, but still not super explosive. Like this isn't a team that's running up scores, or Russ isn't throwing for 300 yards a game. Like he's kind of been in the 150 to 250 range most games. So I think the Lions are explosive enough on offense, have that big playability to you know stay in this. And look, they're still a really great team. I mean, they've obviously been in a bit of a funk, but they still got 9 wins. They're still going to be in the playoffs. So I'm going to pick the Lions. I think they've got like 16 different ways they can clinch a playoff spot this week or something like that. I feel like I saw something like that. So likely they'll clinch this week, but would be great to do that with the win. So we'll see if they can do it. I think they will get it done. All right, next game. Story of all the NFL, Tommy DeVito heading down to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Obviously, Giants win on Monday Night Football against the Packers. You got the agent kissing the dad. I mean, it's one of the great scenes of television I've seen in recent memory. I can just feel the Italian accent trying to come out of me right now. It's starting to take over in my voice. And I'm going to pick the Giants. I'm rolling with them. The Saints have been really bad recently. It's just not a lot to be excited about. Derek Carr, it feels like the guy comes out with like 7 injuries a week. It's like you expect the guy to be out 2 months, and it's like he gets cleared by Friday and he's no injury designation into Sunday. I mean, it's honestly pretty remarkable. I think the guy's been concussed like 5 times this year already. He has like 10 broken ribs, punctured lungs left and right, and somehow, some way. So look, as much as shit as Derek Carr gets, even though it might be hurting the team more that he's out there with all these injuries, props to him. No one can doubt that guy's toughness. I think if that's one thing that's been made clear this season. I mean, that guy is a warrior. It feels like all these Saints quarterbacks are always getting like so banged up, which is like I feel like when Jameis was in there, when Breeze was in there, they had just like fractured rib after fractured rib, punctured lungs, like all this shit, and it's just happening to Derek Carr. I don't know what's going on there in New Orleans, but they do have weapons, but Giants defense has been playing incredible. I think they've just kind of rallied around this whole like Tommy DeVito thing, and they're just kind of playing. Oh, there goes the lamp on it, as I guess the timer went off 5:04 p.m. to be exact. That's a bit weird, but alas, we move. Yeah, I think they've just rallied around defensively around this team right now. Kayvon Thibodeau has been great this year. I think he's up to like 12 or 13 or 14 sacks. I think 12. And yeah, Tommy's just not turning over the ball, being efficient, and Saquon's been great. Obviously, had a fumble last game, is only third in his career, which is a pretty crazy stat as well. But yeah, I'm rambling on. I'm thinking the Italians and the New York Giants. So yeah.
Yeah, no, how can you not love it? Like, I don't like the Giants at all, but I really like this story. It's fun. I guess part of it's because I'm not really deep down scared of Tommy DeVito, but I
Oh,
am gonna take the Giants. The Saints looked really unconvincing in a win against the worst team I can basically remember since that Browns team.
yeah.
Um, I mean,
Panthers are
they
bad,
beat
man.
the
They're bad.
Texans. That's crazy.
That the Panthers
Um,
beat the Texans, yeah.
yeah.
That's nuts.
But besides that, yeah, I'm going with the Giants. I'm not impressed at all by anything the Saints are doing, and I am impressed by what the Giants are doing on defense and with the ball control. And Dable's smart offensive coach. He's getting the ball in Saquon's hands. They're using Wandale. I think DeVito has a connection with Wandale, which is, really interesting. And, you know, they're figuring it out. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the Giants. Moving on. We've got Bears Browns. I was talking to my good friend who's a big Bears fan, and he said, I'm really worried that this is a game Fields gets killed because, it's a bad line against one of these great pass rushes of the last, however many years. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine this game going super well for the Bears on offense. Think I'm gonna go with the Browns. But I do think I could see the Bears winning this just because I'm not super confident in Flacco. Their defense is playing better and their offense is playing better, to be honest, as well. And the Browns are the type of team that their defense is so good that they can beat anyone, but their offense is so inconsistent they can lose to anyone. So I could see this going either way. I will hesitantly go with the Browns, though.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting game. I mean, Cleveland Browns, man, this team has suffered more season-ending injuries than I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, obviously you've got Deshaun, Nick Chubb, but this past week you had Dewan Jones, um, the offensive tackle. Jedrick Wills was ruled out for the season. He was already on IR right now, out for the season. You got Grant Delpit placed on IR, probably out for the season. Ogbo Ogoronkwo out for the season. I mean, it's like holy shit, like what is going on? And obviously, that doesn't even include Jack Conklin, uh, Jakeem Grant, all these guys. I mean, it's just like this team is so good, and they're still like they have the depth to kind of survive a little bit. But it's like holy cow! I think Mo Hurst too was on this team and suffered a
Yep.
season-ending injury. Like holy crap. Um, Regardless, I will pick them. I think this is going to be a better game than people think. The Bears have been playing really good. I think Matt Eberflus, as much slack as we gave him early on in the year, could be saving his job. I mean, their defense has turned it around. The Montez Sweat trade looks great for them. He's been a huge piece. I think he's up to 3.5 sacks with them so far. Um, so he's been great. Fields, I mean, he played really well last week. Credit to him. DJ Moore has been a superstar for them. I mean, I think that's the key. You get those guys the ball. It is a very tough matchup. Brown secondary is relatively healthy. You got Martin Emerson, Newsome. I don't know if Denzel was out there last week. He might have been out, but
He was not.
yeah. Um, but still, I mean, Grant Delpit out is going to help them a little bit. But it's going to be an interesting game. I think I will pick the Browns. Flacco's been playing really well, so I got no reason to think they won't win at home, and that would take them to 9 wins. So I feel like the magic number in the AFC right now is probably 10. About I feel like if you hit 10 wins, you're probably going to be in. But there's a lot of teams there, and the Browns are in a very good spot. So this is a big week for them, though, and if they get it done, got to imagine that barring a crazy collapse, that they'll be in the playoffs. So I'll pick the Browns. Moving along to another game. I mean, I don't even think we really have to spend any time on this one. Falcons at Panthers. I'm going to pick the Falcons. The Panthers are terrible. They're just one of the worst teams I think I've ever watched. Like you said, kind of a minute or two ago. Bryce Young, man, like I feel for the guy. Doesn't look great. I mean, I don't know if anyone would in that offense though. So jury's still out on him. It may be out on him for a few years, but it's been ugly. And I'm not a huge Falcons guy, but I think they'll win this game pretty easily.
Yeah, no, you put it well. I honestly I don't know what the deal is with Bryce Young. I think I basically think of him what I thought coming into the draft. Like I really like him. But,
Yeah,
I don't see anything that tells me he doesn't have it. I just think it's the situation around him. I think it's, like you said, it's really hard for anyone to succeed in this situation. I mean, like, you look at what happened, with Stroud, he loses his top two receivers, and instantly it becomes a lot harder for, them to
yeah,
do much. Granted against a great Jets defense, but just makes everything harder. But yeah, that being said, I'm going with the Falcons. Panthers are really horrible. Um,
really.
Moving on, we've got the Bucks taking a visit up to Lambeau Field. Rematch of the championship game from a few years ago, but
Yeah,
boy, are these teams different. Especially obviously the quarterback position. Um, but I mean, the Packers' disappointing loss, it kind of just felt like everything they'd been doing well has kind of gone away, which is really frustrating. Not gone away, like they just didn't, get the quick game going
yeah.
as much.
They
Really,
had a
the
bad
only thing
game.
they got
Yeah,
going on offense, they had a bad game. Not to say they can't get it back. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to predict them to get it back. I'm taking the Packers here. Um, I just think the Bucks pass defense is really weak. Like we saw Ritter throw for 340 yards on them. Like,
yeah.
Love should have 400 yards by that, by that expectation. I think Christian Watson is probably playing. I haven't heard the update on him. He's good now, I guess, which kind of happened out of nowhere, but um
Unlikely to play.
unlikely to play. Okay, take
Yeah,
that back. So he sucks.
and
Never mind.
AJ Dillon has a broken thumb apparently.
Oh, interesting. And they probably Aaron Jones is always a little tricky with his
I
injury.
doubt Aaron Jones is getting in there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I was trying to be nice. Um, but yeah, you are right, sir. Yeah, so I'm still going with the Packers. I just think Love is gonna figure something out against this Bucks pass defense, and the Bucks offense is pretty uninspiring. So yeah, I'm going with the Packers at home here. What about you?
I'm gonna pick the Bucks actually. I think I mean I've low key feel like I've been a big Bucks guy. I feel like I've honestly picked them most weeks,
Hmm.
weirdly enough. Um I don't know. I think the Packers are really banged up, like we just talked about. Like I think we saw their offense last week with no Christian Watson, no Aaron Jones, and it's just kind of like, all right, like you got some solid guys, I guess, like a Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. AJ Dillon kind of, we know what he is at this point. And, Jordan Love, obviously, he looks like a great player. But, you can only do so much, kind of what we talked about with the Panthers, what you brought up with the Texans. You can only do so much with limited weapons. Then you look at the Bucks, and they just got way better weapons on offense. You got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White's been really playing well. Kate Ottens emerged as a solid tight end in the National Football League. So, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Bucks. I think they're just healthier right now, and sometimes at the end of the season, that's all that matters is just health. Who's healthier? And I think the Bucks are actually in a pretty good spot health wise, and I think they'll picking Baker to go win a game in Lambeau week 15, or yeah, I guess we're week 15. Jesus, we're week 15. That's insane. The NFL season just flies, man. It's truly incredible.
Lies. Yeah.
Um, man, like we're a month away from the playoffs. Holy cow. Sorry, just
Oh,
I'm
that's
scared
fair.
my NFL's it's almost gone. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Baker in the box to go into Lambeau and get the dub. Speaking of another team that got a dub last week, the New York Jets. Zach Wilson, man, he's back and better than ever, slinging that thing last week. They're going to Miami to play the Dolphins, who obviously had a really, really bad loss to the Titans on Monday Night Football. Tua looked bad. I mean, we talked about it this week, off camera, but rough game from him. I mean, it's like what this guy in the big moments has just not really shown up against the big teams. Has not shown up. Tyreek Hill was banged up during this one, missed a good portion of the game. I would assume he's going to play this week, but who knows? He's not going to be 100%. So that will factor in, obviously, against these Jets corners. I'm going to pick the Jets, man. I just got a little feeling here. Zach Wilson kind of stirs something up. I think, I feel like they're letting it rip a little more. I think, you hear the DJ Reed quote, of Zach Wilson kind of be like, what else do I have to lose at this point? And I think that's the attitude he should have had the whole season, but I'm glad he's finally figured that out. And I felt like Hackett kind of let him loose a little more, and it looks like good things. I mean, Garrett Wilson's great. They did some fun things. You had Randall Cobb, Xavier Gibson scoring touchdowns, which is good. Obviously, the supporting cast has been heavily criticized this year, so seeing those guys get involved was big. Brees Hall looked pretty good for the first time in a while. It felt like. So yeah, man, Zach gives them the best chance to win. I think the whole Tim Boyle stuff was kind of stupid. I feel like we kind of said that all along. Like Tim Boyle's not good. Obviously, Zach, it was frustrating to watch, but I think part of that's just they weren't really letting it rip with him. And at this point, I'd rather see the kid throw 4 interceptions trying to be super aggressive than just run, and then pass at the line of scrimmage. Like, just let the kid throw. And I don't know. I got a weird feeling this week that they go and beat Miami, who is kind of on fraud watch, I feel like. And they kind of have been, but maybe your take about them is starting to creep back more towards you being a kind of right from the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still take the L on that one gladly. Like, yeah, no, I mean, I'll take the L on that one. Even if they are the most, fraudulent contender or whatever people are saying about them, like they're still a good team. Like the reason this was concerning was because they were kind of known as a lose to the good teams, beat the bad teams easily type team. And I know they were missing Tyreek, or, for the most part, he was like kind of out there, but not really himself and not really out there for most of the, second half. I'm also going with the Jets.
Wow.
I,
Shit.
I, yeah, I'm sorry because now that means the Dolphins are definitely winning, but like they just they really choked that one away. They, played super soft coverage at the end of the game, which always makes me mad when they're just gifting teams 15, 20 yards at a time. It's like, no, this
Yeah.
isn't gonna work. Like, what are you doing? Like, I just don't get it. That always makes me upset because, as I think I would be doing better. Obviously, I wouldn't be, but I think in my head I'm like, just run some aggressive coverage, at least, sprinkle it in there. But
Yeah.
obviously these guys know more than me, but it is frustrating to see that sometimes. But yeah, I just think the Jets corners are gonna have a good day against a banged up Tyreek if he does play. And I I don't know. I like it's not, I like Zach Wilson. I think he's a really nice guy. I think he said all the right things this year. Like,
Oh, that's never a good start.
yeah, no, it's not, but I'm rooting for him
But he
and
sucks.
he does suck. He does suck at
Yeah.
football. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super confident in this offense, but like maybe he can replicate what he had going on last week. And I think either way, they're going to be in it because of the defense. Um, yeah, I'm ready to move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Chiefs going to Foxborough. Um, this is tough because I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to talk about this Mahomes stuff. Like it just really irked me.
Yeah. It's
Just
interesting.
gave me
Very
some
interesting.
sore loser crybaby type vibes.
Yeah.
So that's all
I
that's
think
all
with
I'm
that,
gonna say.
real quick, I'll
Yeah,
jump
go
in.
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
think, I think, obviously that's pretty much the most, I don't know what the vocal or animate we've seen Patrick Mahomes really. Um, Obviously he was directing it at the refs. I think it's just a combined frustration from the losses this season. Obviously the Packers game, you had just a mess. You had the big MVS drop, which was I forget which was that against the Lions on opening
No, it was
week.
against the Eagles.
Against the Eagles, you had the Kadarius Tony drop on that was against the Lions.
That was against the
There's
Lions.
been all these things with the receivers, and I think it's just boiled up. And originally, I thought he was yelling at Tony. I didn't think he was yelling at the refs, and I
Me
was a little
too.
confused why he's yelling at the refs. I think obviously they were just a little frustrated, and understandably so. Like, offensive offsides, you don't really see that call too much. Obviously, it seems like Tony didn't do the best job he could have at making sure he was on sides. It's a tough call to call in that spot, such a late game. It's the right call. He was definitely blatantly offsides. I think it sucks that they did call it because it's not one of those calls I think that we would have looked back on and Bills fans would have been like, oh my God, like he was offsides. They got to call this. Like it's not like one of those things like a pass interference where you're going to get the other fan base super engaged and adamant about it, like no one would have noticed if they didn't call it, which I think is what kind of makes it more frustrating. And I do get what the Chiefs are saying, where it's like, this had no impact on the play. Like the guy's foot was like a foot in front of where it was supposed to be. Like I get it. Obviously, I think he could have handled it a little bit better. I think he admitted that, but I think it also just stems from frustration at the receivers more so than the referees. And obviously, you don't want to be yelling at your teammates, so kind of out, directed it at the refs. Whereas I think you can kind of tell where it's just. I think it's built up to the point where he's just super frustrated because he hasn't been through a patch like this in his career where they've lost all these games because of just fuck ups by the receivers essentially. So sorry, I'll just jump into prediction. I'm picking the Chiefs. They're not going to lose another game. They're going to be pissed off now. You got to imagine these receivers are on edge at this point. Not that they haven't been already. So someone's got to show up besides Rashee Rice and Kelsey, obviously. And I just don't think the Patriots, obviously, they won last week, but this Chiefs defense, I think, is very good. And this offense should have their way with this New England defense. So I'll pick the Chiefs. Sorry about the little rant on Mahomes there, but your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. I think that's a great way to put it. Like, you kind of changed my mind, to be honest. Like, like I get why he's mad. I get why he's mad about the team. Like he should be, and as a he's just a guy who wants to win. Like I get that.
Yeah.
That's fair to me. Um, about this game, yeah, I think the Chiefs are gonna blow them out. I just think this feels like a get right week for them. There's nothing super scary about this Patriots defense, even if they're performing, pretty adequately to well. Um, I just, yeah, their offense is horrible and the Chiefs defense is really good. So even if the Chiefs offense is bumpy, it's not going to matter anyway. But I just feel like they're going to, really care, almost, come in pissed off and I think kind of blow the doors off them like they did the Bears.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my prediction for that game. Moving on to Texans at Titans. Would be a battle of two rookie quarterbacks, but it's looking like Stroud's probably not going to play, although I wouldn't rule it out. He
Yep.
just didn't practice for the second straight day, which would be my reasoning as to why not, and the line favors the idea that he's not playing, which they always do seem to know. So you guess he isn't going to play, but it is possible he does. That being said, I think the Texans actually win this regardless. The Titans are pretty whatever, and I think the Texans are going to be playing this like almost like, this is a huge game, obviously, at, as
Yep.
one of the six AFC teams at 7-6. Um, they're gonna need every win they can get, and even if they're going with the backup quarterback, I just think they're gonna be able to find a way to get it done. You know, they are missing some playmakers. I'm almost talking myself out of this pick, but I am gonna stick with the Texans. What about you?
I'm picking Tennessee. I'm picking them regardless of if Stroud plays or not. I think this is a pesky team, man. They have been, even while Tannehill was there, and I think that just comes down to coaching. Like Mike Vrabel is just in my opinion, I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. I think he
Agreed.
really gets players to play for him. He's a tough coach, but this is going to be a team. They're going to run the football. I think Will Levis is giving them more options out of the passing game. I mean, his final drive or the go ahead drive in that game was sensational. And the comeback was great. I think you see, his emotions. He was so fired up. It was great to see too. D Hop's been great, and I just think this Texans team is too banged up right now. At the receiver position, like you got, I don't, is Nico Collins going to play or no? Probably not, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so you got him, Tank Dell's out, so then you're stuck with like Noah Brown and like Robert Woods. It's like, all right, like this is now bad. Um, Will Anderson, I just saw something too that he's likely to miss this game. So I just think there's a lot of pieces. I think Tennessee will be able to take advantage of that and run the football, play good, defense and just come out with the win. So I'm gonna go Tennessee here.
Yeah, fair enough.
Moving along, I mean this one's pretty easy. You got the Niners going against the Cardinals. This NFC, this top three, we're gonna talk about it in a second here when we get to the Cowboys Bills game. But hectic top three we got right now. I think the Niners probably up at the top. They beat the Seahawks again. Debo's going off every week. McCaffrey's McCaffrey. Ayuk's a stud. Kittle's a stud. I mean, this offense, it feels like this team is super healthy too. I know, you got the Halupalunga, the safeties out for the season, but other than that, they're relatively healthy, which is never what you want. I feel like all the NFC teams are. I guess the Cowboys had some injuries and some of the Eagles, but they're relatively healthy, which is good to see. So
Yeah.
should be a fun playoff stretch. See who gets the 1 seed, and the playoffs in general should be fun. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Niners here. Obviously, Brock Purdy's probably going to have a day. CMC might go for 3 tutties. I don't know. It should be a blowout. Maybe Kyler gets some garbage time working for your fantasy owners out there, but I think this is a start all 49ers skill players type day because I can see a lot of touchdowns coming for the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I'll keep it short. I think this Niners team looks like they're really dominant right now. I said last week it feels like they could, find their way to the Super Bowl and just blow a team out, and I stand, by that as a strong possibility.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals just, yeah, I don't see the Cardinals doing anything to stop them. Um, moving on to Commanders Rams, and then we get into the three, most fun games probably.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Matthew Stafford, man, like he's still really, really good.
Yeah.
I know they lost to the Ravens, but like really nice performance from him, kind of keeping them in it. We saw the great catch from Puka Nakua. Cooper Kupp
Yep.
got going again. Um, this defense isn't, great, but they still have Aaron Donald, and that's something, worth noting, obviously.
And they got Russ East, of course.
And Russ Yeast, of course. How could I forget? Um, yeah,
21,
and the
21
Commanders.
assists.
Oh
I'm
wow,
looking at He's got 51 combined tackles. Boy's been busy. 30 solos, 3
he
pass
eats
deflections,
islands.
2 TDs.
And the Commanders kind of seem to be, well, they were on bye last week, but before that, they kind of seemed to be going in the wrong direction. So I'm pretty confident in the Rams here. They're still right in that playoff mix in the NFC, and I think they take care of business here. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. The Commanders suck. The Rams with Kyron Williams are a different team. Like he is a stud. I mean, they've really leaned on him these last few weeks since he's been back. Been running the football really well. He's a threat out of the passing game. I mean, he is so big for them. And I think you see just instantly the flip with that Cardinals game when he came back. It was just a different offense. They've been great since. Really good against a really good Ravens defense last week, even though they lost. They went to OT. Like what more could you ask for in a loss? Obviously you want to win the game, but against, the best team in the AFC right now, you go to OT like at their home field in the rain, I think, or yeah, it was sloppy conditions. Like what more can you want? So this is a really good offense. Commanders are terrible. They've been getting like 40 pieced every game. I think the Rams put up 30, 40 points pretty easily in this one and come away with the victory. And if they stay healthy, I think this is a playoff team, and absolutely, I think they can win a playoff game or two with the experience some of these guys got and the young talent. I mean, this was probably the youngest team I think going into the season this year, one of the youngest, just in terms of the amount of sheer rookies and second years they had. You heard Stafford saying he didn't know anyone's names, and you know even on this podcast, we were looking at the wide receivers, and I was going Puka Nakua, and I was like from BYU, a rookie. Like who the fuck are these guys? And it's like, oh, just one of the greatest rookie wide receivers in the history of the sport is who Puka Nakua was, and I was foolish. And Kyron's been a stud. I mean, this team really, really good, and in what seemingly was a down year, and hey, the future's not bright. All of a sudden, you got two of the best young offensive players in the NFL. So great for them. I mean, they're a fun team to watch all of a sudden, and I think they blow Washington out. All right, moving along.
Yeah, no.
Cowboys at Bills. Both these teams huge wins last week. Dallas down first in the NFC East after blowing out the Philadelphia Eagles last week. Dev, let's get your thoughts on that game real quick before we get to predictions. We didn't talk about it. 33-13. First of all, Brandon Aubrey, I think, is Jesus, the reincarnation of Jesus at this point. He's automatic from basically 70 yards, it seems like it would be. Dak is just all of a sudden. I mean, what did you see in this one? And what do you think is the key adjustment Philly needs to make in these next 4 weeks to kind of be able to take down Dallas and San Francisco because we've seen this team now get blown out back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, no, it's about as dark as it can be for a 10-3 team right now. I mean, like two really deflating losses in a row, granted to probably the two best teams in football, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't look like the Eagles are on that level as of right now. In terms of what you do, a lot of it's just execution more than,
Pray.
scheme. Um, sorry.
No, I said pray. Is that
Yeah,
what's left
no,
of this
like that,
one?
you're right. I mean, like you need the secondary to de-age a few years. You need probably in reality, you need this pass rush to start being really, really good again, and you need to get a little bit more creative on offense, get AJ Brown the ball over the middle of the field a little bit more,
Yeah.
use some motion more, and especially not fumble 3 times in Dallas territory. That would be the big one. Um, you know, they still have control their own destiny for the division. I hope slash it's possible the Niners lose another game, but it doesn't seem super likely at this point. You really want to be at home if you have to play Dallas. There's
Yeah.
some talk on Eagles Twitter that it might be better to be the 2 seed because you likely avoid Dallas, assuming they crush the NFC South team that they get to play. I'd still rather be the first seed as a fan, but I guess I can get behind that not being the worst outcome. So, you do have time. You have 4 games coming up that are very winnable. You need to win all 4, probably 3 or so, in blowout fashion for me to feel more confident in this team. But right now it just feels like they're in the second tier behind the Cowboys and Niners. Which is
Yeah.
really upsetting for a team that was just 2 weeks ago 10-1 and looked like the clear best team in the league, arguably. Um, as for Cowboys Bills, um, two teams playing really well. Allen has still turned the ball over, but it hasn't really been in the stupid, what are you doing, Allen
Yeah.
type way. And it just feels like this offense, like I said, is kind of doing the things it needs to be doing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Finding out what works, getting James Cook super involved. I think is going to be a really high scoring game. Cowboys are a different team on the road, and I hate the Cowboys, so we know who I'm picking. I'm going with the Bills. Um, no bias at all involved there.
Totally. Um, oh yeah. Looks like you might have froze a bit. It's probably my bad Wi-Fi. Um, but I think you're done making your pick. Oh, I think we're good now. I think maybe not. Uh, well, my connection is definitely unstable.
Okay.
I think we're good
Are
now. Yeah, there we go. I think somewhat.
okay.
I think
Sorry.
we're good. No, I think it's just catching up on the lag. But I think we're good. I think we're good now. I think we're good. All right. So Deb's picking the Bills. I'm gonna pick the Cowboys. I do agree with what you said. This is a different team on the road. They're not as good. Obviously playing in Buffalo is a tough ask, and I can very well picture myself eating my words and seeing Dak throw 3 picks. But man, the way this offense is just played, like I just can't pick against them right now. I think it's a tough matchup for Buffalo. Obviously, they did pretty well against the last few weeks. You beat up on the Eagles, but last week against Kansas City, this offense wasn't as dominant as they were against Philly. I think Dallas is more defensively closer to KC than Philly at this point. So I think they'll be able to hold the Buffalo to like 20 or so points. I think we get a Josh turnover probably. And I think the way that offense is playing right now, I think you got to give the Cowboys right now, like I think they're putting up 25, 30 points a game at this point. So I think that'll be enough to get the job done. I think it'll be a great game. What is this? This is a 425. So I think that honestly helps their I guess it gets dark though at like 4 o'clock now. So it's gonna be basically a night game. But not necessarily prime time. But regardless, I will pick the Cowboys. I think, you know, the Bills have turned their season around. If they win this, they're in a great spot for the playoffs. But I do want to say one thing also. I forget who said it. It was I think on NFL Network, but someone was like, "Well, if the Bills win this game, I think Josh Allen is the front runner for the MVP." And I'm like, That just cannot be the case. Like Josh Allen has thrown like
Yeah.
16 interceptions this season. Like as great as he has been in these last few games, like you can't just discredit the first half of the season where put the Bills in a spot where like they were very likely to miss the playoffs and still may. Like Josh Allen, as much of a great player as I think he is, as well as he's played these last few weeks, uh, with under Ken Dorsey, you know, you can't just discredit that. So I'm gonna say I just don't think Josh Allen is an MVP. I want to put that out there. If the season started when it's Ken Dorsey who took over, right? Or is he the one who got
No, no,
fired?
no. He got fired. It's Joe
Okay.
Brady.
Joe Brady, right. That's what I meant. Sorry. I thought that was wrong. So if it was the MVP award since Joe Brady took over that week, I think Josh Allen might be the front runner. But since it's not, unfortunately, I do not believe Josh Allen should win the MVP. Totally random thought. I'm going to transition us to Ravens Jaguars Sunday Night Football. Trevor Lawrence played last week, threw 3 picks. It didn't really seem like the high ankle was that much of a factor. Just Cleveland's defense is really good. Um, but Christian Kirk's still out, obviously. Ravens on a roll, just had the punt return touchdown. I think they win this game. I don't know. I haven't been a huge believer in Jacksonville the whole time. I feel like, obviously the injuries now on them for them on offense, I think hurt, but they didn't manage to come back. Evan Ingram is kind of repeating what he did last year, just having a crazy end of the season. So expect him to kind of get going a lot, I think, in this one. But Baltimore, I think defensively will put up a better performance this week than they did last. And I think they'll just be ready to play, and I think Lamar's probably going to be too much for this defense. So, and also, I mean, offensively, Isaiah likely had a big week last week. OBJ's been really good recently, so and Zay Flowers obviously has been great too. So they've really opened up offensively in the passing attack, which is not something I think we were expecting when Mark Andrews went down. So shout out to them. They've really transitioned well and are doing a great job. So I'm going to pick them for Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, no, I think that's really fair. Everything is telling me I should pick the Ravens, but I just have a feeling about the Jaguars for some reason.
Yep.
So I am gonna go with the Jags. It's at home. Got Lawrence with an extra week off the ankle sprain, which, like you said, didn't really affect him. But I don't know. It just felt like, it just feels like maybe the Ravens, like, great, really dominant defense is running out of fumes a little bit. Not that they're like tired, just like not quite at the level they were performing at earlier in the year. Um,
Yep.
and I don't know. I just think maybe, Lamar throws a pick or two or something like that Sunday night in Jacksonville. Kind of feels like the Jags kind of need this a little bit more than the Ravens do. I just, have a feeling about the Jags here. Pulling it out. Obviously a matchup of two really good teams. I'm excited for that one. And then Monday night, my Eagles going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. I think it's unclear whether or not Gino's playing. Um, you know, whether that changes either of our picks, I don't know. Do the Eagles snap this, 2-game losing streak, Griffin?
I think they do. Yeah. I mean, I just don't think Seattle's a mess right now. I think, saw that last week. DK, I mean, he just lost it at the end of that game. A lot of frustration. Obviously, Gino hasn't been 100%, but the Seattle team is just in a total funk right now. I'm trying to figure out. They've lost, let's see, one, two, three, four in a row,
4.
5 of 6. That's not good. That's not good for the program at the end of the day. And I think you got a motivated Eagles team. They've lost 2 in a row. I think they're better than how they've played in those 2 games, most likely. And I think we kind of see them take some of that anger out on Seattle this week. Although, DK could be pissed off too, so he might go off. I mean, they've got the weapons to kind of go at you. Obviously, it was Drew Lock last week, so we'll see if Gino is healthy enough to play. Um, I don't think it really matters. So I think Philly goes into Seattle and wins this one. They don't. That'd be a very bad loss for Philly, and I think then it's like okay, like they running out of time to kind of right the ship. But this is a big right the ship kind of week for them. Um, so I think they get the job done.
Yeah, me as well. I I just I could see, especially if Gino does play, like I could see the defense having a tough time this week, but I really see no world where this offense doesn't come out really pissed off and score,
Yeah.
30 points if it's required. So I'm not going to get too far into the Eagles' struggles. Kind of talked about that, the Cowboys game, when we talked about the Cowboys. So, uh, you know, just really frustrating for the Seahawks. Like they were 6-3, and they were probably always going to lose, to the Cowboys in both of the Niners games. But then it's like you lose to the Rams, like you really needed to win that one, and you'd still be 7-6 and right in this. But now it's just seeming like with the Geno injury, you're
Yeah,
playing a pissed off, and still pretty good at the very least,
yeah,
team. Um, it just seems like, almost impossible for this to happen again, especially if Geno's not playing. So I'm going with the Eagles.
yeah. Well, that will do it for our Week 15 picks, and I think that will do it for this week's episode of Outside the Arena. If you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Um, Make sure to check us out on Apple's podcast and Spotify at Outside the Arena there. Social medias will all be down in the description below. Yeah, fun week in sports head. UFC 296 on Saturday. More NBA action as always. Week 15, like we said, the NFL season. MLB rumors starting to heat up. So we'll get all the latest on next week's episode of Outside the Arena. But until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you all next week.